Hello class, my name is Roger Lung and I'm an aerospace engineer. As an aerospace engineer, I am strongly aware of the current situation of the aerospace industry. At a time when America's economy is not doing well and millions are unemployed, there's little thought given to the current situation of a government agencies such as NASA. Many people do not understand the significance of NASA and feel that at a time when the nation is in debt and not in a financially stable position, that space exploration should not continue. Which brings me to my major claim that a decrease in funding to NASA will hurt America's interests. I will use 3 secondary claims and several statistics to back up this major claim. My first secondary claim, NASA's ability to continue its goal of space exploration and research will be hurt. Space findings and new innovations are used in schools throughout America and the world, but without funding, NASA can no longer continue making new finds. Private companies that are slowly taking over NASA's roles are only interested in making money and have no thought to contribute to the greater good of humanity. An example from the Huffington Post. Companies such as Paragon Space Development Corporation and Virgin Galactic strive to make profits from the space industry by charging $75,000 to $250,000 per seat to go to space. While NASA is the only organization that constructs space probes and satellites to explore the solar system and beyond. NASA collaborates with universities and their students to solve real-world problems and to conduct extensive research. An example found on jpl.nasa.gov. NASA's JPL, or Jet Propulsion Laboratory, where robotics and spacecraft are developed, is run entirely by Caltech. My second secondary claim, the use of NASA as a tool to reach out to other countries will be less effective. Space exploration is one of the few fields that countries collaborate in, and low funds will affect NASA's ability to contribute. Russian and American space agencies have close ties and work together to supply the International Space Station, known as the ISS for short, which itself is an international project involving over 15 countries and at a cost of $100 billion. Political issues are set aside in the face of collaboration on space exploration. A quote from an article from the New York Times: 10 astronauts greeted one another with hugs, handshakes, and kisses on the cheek, chattering away in Russian and English while speeding around the Earth at nearly 5 miles a second in the biggest craft ever assembled in space. This goes to show, at a time when Russia and the US were at odds, the two sides managed to come together to ease tensions and show friendliness towards one another in the face of technological advancement. My third secondary claim, NASA will make less impact on the local and national economy. There will be less spin-off and due to less innovation. Spin-off is when NASA inventions are used by private companies to create a business on, which helps stimulate the economy by creating jobs. A famous scientist, Bill Nye, in an article by the Huffington Post, planetary exploration not only brings us astonishing discoveries from other worlds, it inherently leads to innovation because we invest in solving problems which have never been solved before. That in turn creates new businesses and economic growth. But more importantly, supporting a robust space program raises everyone's expectations of what is possible. With the space program, everyone in our society comes to believe and expect that any problem we face can be solved. It's inherently optimistic. It's part of our national character. An example found in Forbes by an article of an interview with famous astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson. When you innovate, you create new industries that then boost your economy. And when you create new industries, that becomes part of your nature, your culture. Your jobs can't go overseas because no one else has figured out how to do it yet. NASA will not be able to conduct missions it has previously done. It has started to rely on private industries such as SpaceX and Orbital Science Corporation to do missions that it previously has done. And it has also turned to paying Russia $63 million per seat to bring its astronauts to the International Space Station. This is important because NASA's technology is not advancing anymore due to low funds. In conclusion, with all the benefits that NASA brings to the country, decreasing its funds will put the U.S. at a disadvantage and hurt our national interests. Thank you.
All right, the proposition's clearly identified. You start to say you're going to give us a preview, but you really just go to the first point, so there's not a preview. You do signpost the individual points clearly in the body of the speech. That's okay. You give a nice background on the controversy. I think you would benefit from having some evidence that suggests their budgets are in fact being cut, or that there are limitations that are being imposed under the current budget realities, and that shouldn't be hard information to find, and I think that would have made that opening a little bit stronger. You cite the first supporting point very clearly. You explain a little bit what's going on there. I thought you had a good citation of examples on how the private industry is really focusing on touristy things or profit-based things as opposed to exploration. That was okay. The outreach kinds of things that you're talking about, I'm not exactly sure the fact that Caltech runs JPL shows that there's cooperation between schools and gets you the inference that you're trying to make on that point. It's a okay example, but I don't think it supports the point that you're making on that. The spin-off issue is a good idea. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with Bill Nye, the science guy, as a source citation here, but I think you might want to have something that backs that up a little bit more. I mean, I think he's probably a good way to introduce the concept, but if you had some examples or statistics or some economic data on here, it would be really helpful. Excuse me. And this would probably be the one place where some statistical data would be most useful. I think some of the information that you have at the end about the relying on private transportation or having to pay Russia to transport our astronauts into space probably would have fit better on that first point, so it's a little bit out of place. The delivery is a little mechanical. I think you're reading too much. You probably need to be practiced a little bit more. And I'm going to say this for you, and it's no intention of trying to make you feel uncomfortable. It's just one of those things people got to get used to. Forbes is the name of the magazine. Okay? Good deal.